As much as we all love smooth waters, there's an old Arab proverb, I believe, that says something like, smooth waters don't make skillful sailors. In our journey in life, there are people who can not only help motivate us, help guide us, but these angels, on this day of angels, are also, I think, here on earth to help us change our own lives. It is truly a personal honor to welcome our guest, Liz Murray, author of Breaking Night, to the Midday Magazine. Liz, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is truly, a very special moment, and I'll tell you why. We have roles in this world, and I believe that, there are certain people who can affect change in a positive way the way you have.
Thank you very much.
Tell us about your story.
Well, I guess the most direct way to say it is I sort of accidentally became known as the homeless to Harvard person in my life. That's how people kind of know me through my book about going from homeless to Harvard, and my lifetime television film was made about my life called From Homeless to Harvard. And the reason that all that came about was just because, I grew up in New York City and in the Bronx, in kind of a tough neighborhood, and my parents, they were unfortunately very, very addicted to drugs. And, through a series of circumstances growing up, one thing led to another. And I guess I had to learn how to take care of myself a little bit early on. Just for clarity, I don't mean to say that they weren't wonderful people. Like, I actually had, really loving, wonderful, wonderful parents. Yes. But they were addicted. They were really addicted. And when people are ravaged by addiction in that way, they're often not able to meet their own needs, to take care of themselves. And, the way I always looked at it was like people can't give you what they don't have.
Yes.
And so we had a lot of love between us, but there was just a lot of negligence and not having enough food and, getting so hungry we'd have to, my sister and I would eat, ice cubes and chapstick, and we were, starving, and education was not so much on my mind. It did not really feel like a possibility. Mm-hmm. When you see your parents take out needles and shoot up drugs every day, and no one's got their education and no one's really going anywhere, I guess you sort of feel like the highest possibility in life is survival. Mm-hmm. You don't really think of yourself as someone who could thrive, and you can only live like that for so long, and life will test you, and eventually their lifestyle caught up with them, and they were sharing needles with strangers, and my mother became diagnosed HIV positive, first. My father's diagnosis came, but it was later. And that was kind of like the beginning of the end. I found myself as a teenager as a result of that, coming out of group homes and visiting my mom in the hospital quite a bit. She was sort of fading away, and I found myself homeless at the age of 15. It was a time where I guess I didn't get the significance of it at first.
Yes.
You don't really think that that's what's happening to you.
Right.
People don't often understand how youth homelessness works, and I always try to just clarify it. It's kind of like if you don't have your family and you don't have a real trust in the foster care system, and I did not, based on previous bad experiences, there really isn't anything else. And you kind of aren't old enough to take care of yourself. You start doing things like couch surfing. And there's this saying that after 3 days, there are two things that stink, fish and company, and you can't keep begging off of people. And it just becomes easier to sleep on the train, or in the hallway. And I was kind of living this life where I would visit my mother in the hospital. We loved each other so much. I try to take care of her and make her laugh and try to give her more good days. Mm-hmm. And, there was nothing I could do to change what was happening. And I had dropped out of school earlier in life. I would go every now and then because you get a free train pass, and lunch and friends.
Yeah.
But I didn't I was failing out of everything, and basically, but it's falling through the cracks and becoming like every statistic. If you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
And what's interesting is that even though all of that was going on, sometimes I feel like if I tell people that, they think, "Wow, that's so quirky and different and dark." And I actually think that I had a lot in common with people. I've come to learn that really is that I got myself into a rut and a routine. And it didn't match what was in my heart for what I saw for my life. Like, if I closed my eyes, I could still dream of a better life. And I think all of us, every single person has that capacity. And we lose touch with it in the business of survival. You have to pay the bills. You have to, you have to see the kids. You have to, you have to go to work, whatever we do.
Right.
But I think when we all put our heads down on the pillow at night, we all have the capacity to say, well, what if? Like, what if I went after that career? What if I went back to school? What if I ran that marathon or wrote that book? Or, what if?
Yes.
And I think that really my guiding light was my ability, like anyone else, to close my eyes and dream of a better life.
Of a better life. Do you feel as though these skills that you learned during your times of adversity have really served you in a way for you now to turn around and to tell others during the storm, here's how you handle things?
I wish I had some magic bullet or the 7 steps to ascending to greatness or whatever. I don't say that you mean it that way, but I just mean I wish that I wish, because I care so much about people, that it could be so direct. All I know is that so many of us hope to teach things to others. I want to teach my children, or I want to teach my students, or I want to teach this. And I think that your life is your greatest invitation to people, the way you live your life, who I am, and to hold up a possibility for other people as I look to other people to hold up possibilities for me. And advice is a tricky thing. I mean, I picked up some tips along the way, if that's what you mean. I certainly have some stuff in my back pocket that I did not have. And I do believe, like Shakespeare says, like, sweet are the uses of adversity. And I do think there's something to that. Yeah, for sure.
But adversity also has the effect of either bringing us some of the very best qualities and helping us overcome the adversity, or, Liz, for some, just bowling them over, plowing them under. Why is it that some of us can face adversity, learn to overcome the adversity, and yet others, it just drowns them?
See, the thing is, I don't know if that's necessarily, for me, I see it as we're both of those people depending on the time in our lives. I've been that person where I've laid down and given up, and I've been the person where I've got up, dusted myself off, and said, let's do it, and I think we're both of those people. And I think that the reason why we miss that sometimes is because in this country, we hold up a picture of success that is like, the house and the picket fence and the six-figure salary and the high-functioning this and that.
Sure. But
you know what? If you really, I'm studying psychology in graduate school to be a psychologist, and I absolutely love people. And if you sit and listen to people, like really, really listen to them, when they're striving for change, you would be amazed at the invisible victories that go on in a person's day. When, an addict decides to not pick up that next time. Right. Or if a mom who's been just trying to be a better parent, and get out of domestic violence situation, chooses to go to that shelter and start her life over, or a teenager who risks eye contact and shakes their teacher's hand and decides to show up on time. These are the little victories, I think, that if we can take some joy and fulfillment and celebration in our hearts from them and acknowledge one another for what progress might look like depending on the person, you actually see a tremendous amount of resilience in people.
So the more we open up with others, the more we have in common.
I do think so. I used to think I was an island unto myself. I don't know. I guess you grew up eating, like, ramen noodles, 3 meals a day, and your mother's, like, schizophrenic, and, and the cat, she throws the cat out the window, and the police are in the apartment, and you start thinking, hey, maybe I'm an oddball, and then at the end of the day, really, everyone has a story. and I listen to people, and it's amazing how much you have in common. I understand I ended up doing something unusual. Like I ended up coming out of homelessness and going into Harvard and like that kind of thing. But that's just circumstance. Like if you listen to people and their emotions and their heart, I think we're all like actually very similar.
Yep. Absolutely. We all are. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, Liz Murray is our special guest, author of Breaking Night. Why did you want to write this?
Why did I want to write this? I think that people walk around in general with like stories inside of them that need to be told, that they may desire to be told in some form or fashion. Some people want to tell them, write them on pieces of paper and throw them in the ocean, but we carry these things inside of us. And I had a book inside of me, and I don't know who's listening on this radio right now, but I'm sort of smiling because it's funny. Here I am talking to you on my cell phone for my psych internship, like in New York City right now, right? And I love the radio, right? Because I don't know who it is that's listening and what you're doing in your living room or your car or whatever.
Yeah.
But whoever is out there, if you have a book inside of you, oh gosh, don't you know the weight of carrying it around and not putting that pen to that page? It lives inside of you. And kind of like that Langston Hughes poem, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Does it sag like a heavy load? Does it explode? Like, it's a living, breathing thing inside of you. Sure. And I knew that after I lost my mom, and I was 16 years old when I buried her, and we lost her. She lost her battle with AIDS, and it was, awful. I had this transformational experience where, I just loved her so much.
Yes.
And when I lost her, I guess I sort of realized how valuable life was. It's like she was gone,
yes,
and she was so precious. And I could then look around and go, oh, wait a second. All of our lives are precious. Like, it's a gift to be here.
Yes.
And I guess I realized that there comes a point in your life where you need to stop counting all the things you don't have and just be grateful for the things that you do. And I think from that mindset, and I don't mean gratitude like a slogan. I'm not a slogan person. I mean gratitude is nothing more than realizing that every single thing you have, you could just as easily not have it. And when you look at that and have a marriage between your head and your heart, it's amazing how that will make you resourceful. Real gratitude will have you be resourceful because you're willing to work with what you have.
Let me read you something that I think defines gratitude.
Sure.
Liz.
Sure.
Lizzie, I left my dreams behind a long time ago, but I know now that they are safe with you. Thank you for making us a family again. Wow. Whew.
Yeah, it's the last thing my father ever wrote to me. I put that in my book. You see my dad? I'm talking about my dad like, I don't know who's listening, right? You're picturing some like drug addict guy, right? My dad was actually this like really brilliant man who was doing his PhD in psych at one point and had a whole other life. He became addicted, and he lost that life, and he kind of lost those dreams and went the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so what you just read was what he gave me in a birthday card. It's actually just 3 weeks before he died, and that's after I found myself. I was about to finish Harvard, and those are his words of encouragement.
Yes. Wow. Do you think that suffering has a real role in life in general? Is there a purpose?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Gosh, yes. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's like, I really like what you said when you first, I was listening when you were introducing me about the still waters and the rocky waters. And yes, very much. Because I think that it's paradoxical, right? Because you don't want to think you want to suffer, or you don't want to think comfort is bad because comfort feels good.
Right.
But it's kind of like you go to the gym, you have that pain, and then you develop, like we sculpt ourselves around the adversities that we have. I certainly think so. My mom, after I buried her, and I was 16, I'd never been to school. Yeah. Not really. I went like enough to fail things, but I never really went.
Sure.
And I decided. I was turning 17. I was turning the age people should be when they're graduating, and I was living on the streets, and I knew I could not tell anybody at school that I was homeless, and I had to go back to school. So I hid my homelessness, and I went knocking on doors and looking for, will some school please let me in? And I was just a disaster. I was filthy. I smelled. I couldn't make eye contact. I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
You know, I was knocking on doors, and I was rejected. And every one of those rejections, you know, they were discouraging, but at the same time, I got so used to them that I was just like, well, let's just see if I go one more time and one more time. And if that doesn't work, I'll just go one more time. You know, and I kept doing that until the school said yes to me. They accepted me, and I had my second chance. You know, and no one had to know I was homeless. I started taking 10 classes a semester because I had a lot of catching up to do, and I was sleeping in the streets and doing my homework. And this beautiful thing happened, which came from adversity. And it's almost impossible to put it into words, but it's amazing. I think we live in a lot of fear in general. We're afraid we're going to lose our homes, our jobs, our people, our things.
Yes.
And not that I, you know, recommend losing everything, but if you ever do, it's incredible that when you do, you realize you are not your thing. You are so much stronger than you could even imagine.
Through losing, we win.
It's the attachment we have, but you know, those things were never who you are. You know, you are who you are, and you have your two hands and your 2 feet, and you know, new moment, new opportunity. And I came to realize that, and I was doing my homework and sleeping in stairwells and, you know, sleeping on the subway. And in the space of realizing how strong I was, I became deeply, deeply inspired. I realized that I could carry all the sadness in my heart and still feel it and cry when I needed to cry, and move forward when I needed to move forward, and get these classes done. And the thing about it, it's not that I said I'm going to become the homeless to Harvard person or anything like that, but I just was inspired because I realized that if life had changed for the worse overnight, maybe life could change for better, because clearly life could change, and maybe I could drive that change. You know, it's just so inspiring. So it's just something about it, and uplifted by the love I felt from my parents, I just went for it, you know, and I applied to Harvard, and I found out tuition was quite high. Actually, obnoxiously high, excuse me. And I applied for scholarships. I mean, who has that money? I couldn't afford a turkey sandwich. It was going to be a problem. So I filled out scholarship applications, and there was this one scholarship from the New York Times. It was the first year they had ever offered it. And the criteria is $12,000 a year, thank goodness, every year. And the criteria was that I should write an essay. Please write an essay, attach, you know, an essay about any obstacles you've overcome in your life.
Yes.
You know, and I was like, okay, sure. You know, and I wrote my story to the New York Times. And when I was awarded that scholarship, they wrote my life story in the newspaper. And this was around the time I was waiting to hear back from Harvard. And all of a sudden, little by little, you know, I put one foot in front of the other. See, I don't think anything really happens overnight. You can make a choice in a moment, that's for sure.
Sure.
But really, you know, I always look at it like this. If you're standing somewhere, look to your left and look to your right. There's a fork in the road. You know, there's like the lazier choice or the depressed choice, the tough, bad choice, right? I'm going to lay down, I'm going to give up, I'm going to get under the blankets, right? Or this like empowered choice. I'm going to make the empowered choice. And nobody's perfect. We're going to mess up a million times. But if you'll just make the empowered choice as many times as you can, I think that's how you change your life. It's choice by choice, day by day, hundreds and hundreds of choices, and then you let time pass, and before you know it, one foot in front of the other, you will carve out a new life for yourself.
Liz Murray, the founder and director of Manifest Living, a New York-based company that does exactly what she has been doing with us, empowers us, touches our hearts, and really communicates to the fundamental of our human spirit that everything is possible because you give it that meaning. You know, somebody asked me to pass along, you know, what is your greatest accomplishment? And I said, I can't answer for her, but I can tell you this, Liz. Your greatest accomplishment in life is going to be your next one, and then your next one, and then your next one.
Yeah, right. It's not. I don't think we're ever defined by those kinds of things. Although I can say, you know, a couple of years ago I became a mom.
Congratulations.
You asked that question of a mom. She might take it in another direction. I would say my two small, beautiful, loving, beaming, brilliant, beautiful children are my greatest accomplishment.
Beautiful. You're coming to New Bedford for what reason?
Yes, I'm speaking for a kickoff for the start of school.
Oh.
You know, and I often talk to teachers and administrators when I can. It's kind of funny because I was such a horrible student. Like, maybe I sound academic or something. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Not naturally. Like, I have to work hard at it. I'm the type of person who opens a textbook and reads and goes, what was that? And I read it again, and I read it again. And, it's through the hard work. Some people are naturally talented at that, and I'm not. And so I was a pretty terrible student on that front, but I also had behavioral problems, and so I was tough. And I look at it now like, wow, I give teachers such a hard time. I'm speaking to them so often. It's like I'm doing penance, I'm going out and I'm going, oh, hey guys, forgive me. Or, hey, may I speak on behalf of all the people who ever gave you a hard time?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I do inspirational speaking quite often because it makes me extremely happy. I do feel that there is so much value in storytelling and in sharing. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love. I often will come in with my memoir, my book, and I'll come in and do a talk. And my highest hope is to be useful in some form or fashion to whoever I get to share with.
Well, you are appearing on this program on August 22nd, and it is known nationally as Be an Angel Day. There's
That's a big one. You got me on that one.
The blessings of your parents and the goodness in your heart and the reason that you are helping out people is very evident. I hope that people are receptive to your message because you can act as a tool of change in their spirit. You are truly somebody who can help others change their own lives by looking at how you did it. And I don't think, Liz, there's no greater contribution on earth other than having children than what you have done.
That's very sweet. Thank you. May I say, do I have about 40 seconds? Can I tell you about an angel at the end?
You are embraced in my heart. You have as long as you want.
Okay. If today's the day for angels,
it is.
You need to know about the angels that help because, I think people, they hear me as a bootstrapper. Mm-hmm. And actually, the truth is that no one gets where they're going alone. And in fact, I want people, if you're listening out there, to please. The reason I say this and share this is because I think we don't realize how powerful we are when it comes to changing the lives of other people, all of us, each and every one of us. I'm not special in that regard, like really each of us. And that's not a party line, like really hear me. So when I won a scholarship from the New York Times, and the only reason that I got to write a book and all that is because they wrote my life story in the paper. But when they wrote my life story, I was still struggling with housing and all of that. And here it was in the New York Times. Liz Murray is homeless. She has applied to Harvard. This is her high school. And so many people read that article, and an amazing thing happened. I walked into my school the following weeks after that article had hit the stand, and there were just these people standing in the lobby of my school all asking, like, where's Liz Murray? And I didn't know any of them, and they didn't know one another. Mm-hmm. And they turned out to be members of my community. And they were standing there holding things like baked brownies and clothing out of their closets and gift packages for school. And they came to help me. And, I grew up a little ghetto, and I was like, who are these people? What do they want back? And I just didn't understand, if you know what I mean. I didn't understand that people could be good.
Of course.
And this was my lesson in that, because one by one, they put together $20, $30, $50. They pulled together enough money to pay rent in an apartment for my sister, myself, a friend of mine. She was also homeless. They built us beds to sleep on. They filled up the refrigerator, turned on the lights. Yeah. I never, ever slept another night in the street ever again, thanks to these folks who I call the Angel Brigade. Mind you, I wrote that in my book. I told the story of their helping. And one woman at the end is the one I want you all to remember, because she didn't come for about a month and a half. And this is like, it started to die down. But I came out of my school, and there was this woman. Are you Liz Murray? I said, I am. She apologized to me. I said, for what, ma'am? I don't know you. She said, shame on me. I've had your New York Times article in my refrigerator for weeks. And every day I get up and I think I want to help. Then I think, no time, no money. But this morning, sweetheart, I was doing my laundry. And I got to thinking, you might have some laundry. And then she opened up her car and had these 2 empty plastic laundry bins. And she said, do you have any laundry?
Wow.
And I said, I do. And sure enough, this woman came once a week. I always tell people, I'm glad she came back with my clothes. I didn't know who she was. Mm-hmm. But she cleaned them once a week, every week. And she said this phrase to me I want everyone to remember, because it really changed my heart. And she said, I figure I can't do much, but I can do that.
Oh.
You know, right? I mean, and it's each and every one of us, or as Coach John Wooden used to say, like, don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah? Absolutely. Can you feel, though, we have met before in our hearts. You are embraced in my gratitude. All of us listening right now are touched by the love that you are an example of. Oh, my gosh, Liz Murray.
It's available to each of us. Please spread that. I'm just saying spread kindness, because if you've ever for 1 second thought, I can't solve the whole problem, and why bother? It's the wrong thinking. I think cynicism is the atrophy of your heart. It's the atrophy of your imagination. Do that thing, because when you do, it absolutely makes an impact, and it absolutely matters. And that's actually, each of us has that power.
Wow. Don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. Oh, my God. I'm hugging you over the radio, Liz.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Thank you for making a space to share this with whomever might be listening.
Thank you. I
feel really lucky. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being a point of light. We love you, and welcome to New Bedford when you get here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.